Not parallel parking.
Welcome into the Toyota Lounge, brought to you by your Front Range Toyota dealerships. I don't know if you can even hear me, but this is the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We're taking a look at the Avs depth chart today, which will be an interesting conversation. I don't think there's going to be any shocks or surprises or anything on that depth chart for you if you do follow the Avs closely, but I wanted to have it ready, have it here, so we can take it and compare it to what it looks like in 2 months or so time. I guess more like a month and a half, really. After free agency and all of the offseason hubbub.
It's like 6 weeks.
Yeah, month and a half, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Comes up on you quick.
It's hard to believe it's already late May.
Goes fast, I tell you. But, a jumping off point for the rest of the season and maybe what you guys will be working with your Roast My Roster rosters in a month here or so.
Oh, yeah, we got to do that again.
Yep. So, had to start there. I wanted to start with the easiest position we'll talk about today, and that's goaltending. As far as the NHL roster is concerned, right now the Avs depth chart goes Georgiev 1, Annunen 2, and you have Trent Miner as your AHL 3. Now, I think we probably all expect them to go out and get a number 3 of some kind. Now, that might not happen until pretty late on in the offseason. Realistically, though, do you guys see any change in the 1 and 2 for the goaltending this offseason?
Is this all of us afraid to say yes?
I think they trust Justus Annunen more, but then they did go and get Ivan Prosvetov.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm a little nervous.
Oh, that's a different approach than I was thinking. I feel like Annunen is the safe one. He loses his waiver eligibility this year. Mm-hmm. So at the start of next year, if they want to send him to the Eagles, he has to pass their waivers. In the 2-year deal that they gave him, just for me, I think he's safe for right now. Obviously, if there's something that comes up that's just too good, sure. But I think he's safer than Georgiev is, just in terms of walking into the summer and saying, which position do we need to upgrade?
It's not a backup.
I don't think backup goaltender for under $1 million is going to be a priority. Again, if something comes up, the Prosvetov thing is a great example of what the hell was that? Then maybe, but with Georgiev, I don't want to say, I'm not trying to say that it's likely they move him, but if they were to make a change at that position, that one feels likelier to me than Annunen at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, there's no chance in hell that he clears waivers, Annunen. Not a chance. So he's got to be here. Now, do I think that both those two guys are here by December? I think we shall see. I think there might be a change there. But they're definitely going to get a 3. As we all know, it gets by September. You're the Martin Jones of the world last year, and those deals are. Sometimes teams like to jump on them right away till July 1st, and you're waiting for those big deals. Then all of a sudden you see what? You know what I mean? Like this veteran goalie for $800,000. You're like, all right, great. They protected themselves. Some teams like that. I remember in Calgary one year we got burnt, and then after that we're always like, no, July 1st we're ready and we're going after our number 3. You know what I mean? So they're going to go after a number 3. Not that Trent Miner can't be a number 3. We talked about it yesterday. He just hasn't hasn't played. Right? Yeah. He hasn't played AHL games. What was it, like 18 last year? So, his time will come if he keeps walking the walk. And,
feels like it would be a big surprise if Trent Miner was their plan.
That's what I mean. It's not their plan. What I'm saying, eventually, like maybe a few years down the road, he could be that. Who knows? I don't know. But they'll go after someone for sure. And then that's probably the plan, to be with Trent Miner and the Miners. Miners.
Miner.
I would say this. If the Avs do something at goaltender, I would be surprised if Alexander Georgiev was still here.
Oh, of course.
I don't see a world where they go out and get a tandem guy to go with Georgiev. Or,
Me neither.
Or
no.
Or Georgiev switching to a backup role. I don't see either of those things happening. It's either Georgiev's the starter or he's gone and whoever's coming in is the starter.
Yeah, you can't. This is where Onidin's contract really gives him security.
Because he's so cheap.
Yeah, and where I think, if they were going to make a move, you can't have $3 million spent on Georgiev in a tandem or a backup role.
Yep.
If it becomes a tandem, if Georgiev stays and Annunen plays so well that they become a tandem throughout the year, that's whatever.
Different conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But going into the summer, I mean, there's going to be a number of goaltenders that we know are going to be available. You know, John Gibson is always being mentioned.
Yep.
Jacob Markstrom and Linus Ullmark are two guys that you think
they're probably not staying where they're at.
Yeah. Well, there's a chance that they get moved. There are goaltender needy teams all across the league. I always wonder about a guy like an Anthony Stolarz, a guy who was kind of been on that radar, had a really good year as a backup. There might be a team out there that wants to. This isn't an Avs thing, just in general, like looking at goaltenders that might be available. I'll just once again mention the situation in Nashville, where UC Saros is entering his final year of the deal.
Coming or not? Yeah,
exactly. Well, and they've got a really popular backup in Kevin Lankinen that's hanging out there. So there are going to be goalies available. What Colorado's job is to do is to sift through those options and say, do we think any of these guys would be an upgrade on Alexander Georgiev next season? And if they are, how much do they cost in trade? How much do they cost in cap? Because if you're going to move on from Georgiev and you're going to replace him, Georgiev has to go.
Yep.
So that's $3.5 million that you're sending out the door. If you get, an Ullmark, he's at $5 million. So you're only spending an extra $5 million on that one. But again, 1 year left. UC Saros, 1 year left. Markstrom, I think, is 2 years left at 6. So there's a lot of math to be done here. So that it feels like the safest position going into the offseason. You have two guys that you're comfortable with that are signed at a cheap number. You're going to spend just a little over $4 million on the goaltending position between those two guys. That's a good number. If you can get away with spending that kind of money at that position, you feel great about it.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
I don't really have a ton of expectations for Colorado to go out and do anything with the goaltending position. They might.
Yeah.
But
I don't think it would shock any of us, but I don't think it's on the top of the to-do list for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Come July 1st, I'm expecting it to stay where it is, but if there is a change there, I don't think any of us are going to be like, why would they do that?
The Avs just generally in this era have been pretty comfortable about playing out a goalie's contract and then solving that problem when the time comes.
Yeah.
So,
and with Georgiev, you do have an interesting body of work. One good year, one not as good year.
Yep.
But at least a decent finish off of the not as good year.
That's true.
In a world of recency bias, you might be like, hey, he's moving up. Okay.
Yep.
Everybody's asking about the media availability tomorrow.
It's planned.
It's been planned for some time. Honestly, it kind of kicked off with Chris McFarland needs to address the media after the Val Nichushkin situation.
Yeah.
We knew we would be getting Chris McFarland at some point. Landeskog also simultaneously just hasn't addressed the media in a little bit of time as well. So I don't think that this is some announcement-related joint media availability. It was planned for Chris McFarland especially.
Well, it's scheduled for tomorrow. I have no doubt we'll talk about it on tomorrow's podcast. So
yeah, because it's early, so we'll have plenty of time to unpack it.
This is early. It's 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it's weirdly early.
Rude.
So it is what it is, much like the Avs goaltending being what it is. One of the positions I expect them to play by ear this offseason with a depth chart like they have. Yeah, sure. You can expect them to go out and get a third goalie. Maybe that's a guy that battles Annunen for the second spot. I don't know. You can maybe see them going out and getting a number one guy if the situation is correct. But I don't think anyone is sitting there hammering saying, hey, they have to go get a guy.
Yeah, not anymore. He finished up strong enough in the postseason that the desire to be like, they have to do this is gone.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward position for the Avs on that one. I don't want to overthink it. You move into the actual skaters and things get a whole lot more interesting when it looks at what Colorado's going to do, both externally and internally here, as I'll jump into the Avs defense. In the immediate, the top of the Avs defense is, there's nothing going on there. That's Makar and Taves. Full stop. It's going to continue to be Makar and Taves for at absolute minimum in the next 3 years, and then it'll still be Makar and Taves because they'll give Makar a blank check, essentially.
Yeah. Boy, that's going to be a big contract.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of money, man. It's going to be a lot of money on that one. Then you have both Girard and Manson still signed for the next 2 years in Manson's case, 3 years in Girard's case. That rounds out your top four on paper right now. But you're losing both of your bottom pairing guys, all three of your bottom pairing guys, if you want to include Caleb Jones in that conversation. Jack Johnson, a free agent at the end of this season. Sean Walker, a free agent at the end of this season. The first conversation you have to have is, do you bring either of those two back?
Did Colorado get fleeced?
Oh,
See
my
the discourse?
God.
I do feel
Annoying conversation.
We've alluded to it. I think Sean Walker's due for a payday.
Most
I don't
likely.
think it will make sense for positionally where he was played in Colorado on the third pair. So I don't see the fit in Colorado past this season, and it's because I expect, based on what he did with Philly, especially last season, there's going to be a team interested in paying him for a larger role that in Colorado is otherwise locked up by Manson and Girard.
I do wonder about his market. The offensive production isn't there, and he's not such a stout defender in his own zone that, like, I think the conversation about like $5 million is probably unrealistic at this point.
Feels a lot more like a Josh Manson deal.
I was thinking like 3.5 would probably be. I think that's probably too fair of a number.
I'd be awfully tempted to bring him back if it's 3.5.
But you are talking about a guy that the offensive numbers they're just not there. He's not such an overwhelming point producer that you're like, okay, well, we can live with the warts in his game. And so his profile is kind of weird, where it's a lot of the analytics driving the interest in Walker, because he wasn't amazing in Colorado's postseason run. He had his moments. He had games, both good and bad. And that's a team that he fits really well with. His age is also going to be working against him a little bit in terms of term. And so it's just kind of a strange free agent profile to really try to nail down what it is. I agree. I think he's probably not going to be here next year. But it is one where I if certain things were to happen money-wise, you have a $13 million question mark with two guys in your forward core. If some of those, if some of those questions resolve themselves before July 1st, I could see that. I could see him staying, but it would have to. I'm sorry. I've been doing this for 3 years. I'm just gonna go down with this ship again, but it has to be without Jack Johnson. He anchors every single pairing he's on. He makes it worse. Don't have him be a seventh guy, because the coaching staff won't use him as a seventh guy. And if he gets into the lineup, he may never get out of the damn thing. He can't come back. He makes your defense worse. He makes it worse. Please, analytics guys in the front office, make the argument. Give them the hard data that says this guy makes you worse. I understand he's trusted. He gets it. He's got the veteraniness, the veteran sauce that we love.
Go out and find a guy that doesn't make you worse, though.
But seriously, he is an anchor on every single pairing that he's been on in Colorado. He has made it worse.
Hard to argue. I'm not saying he will or not. Johnson will be back. Or hard to argue with what you're saying. You're right. And sometimes there's guys, because their personalities, the way they fit in, you overlook the other side of things, right? But I can't argue you. You're right. You know what I mean, on that sense. And So is that part stronger than the other part? You know what I mean? So I don't know. You know, and I think that's up to them to figure out. And who else can come in and be a veteran presence? And, you know, like, because it seems to coaches like veteran guys. They just do. You know what I mean? Especially in that position, they go in and out. But you're right. Like Jack didn't even get out. I mean, did he get out? Did he miss what, one game? Because he was hurt. I mean, his durability is amazing.
I want to hold off on the replacing Jack Johnson conversation for a second because I want to get into Walker a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to Walker. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
If you have something on Walker, go ahead.
Yeah. No, Walker. I'm not willing to say right now that he's not coming back. You touched on that point that who knows what's going to happen with that $13 million. That's who knows what it is at this point. I've seen this guy for so many years now. He didn't play his best. You know what I mean? When he was here, he played his really good for parts of it. Forget about playoffs. Like, remember for a while everybody was going. Then then he didn't play his best. Then there were some weird games. Rudo would shake his hand sometimes. You know, remember you're like, holy crap, what's he doing?
Especially in the Dallas series, there were a couple of games where you're like,
he looked overwhelmed to me in the Dallas series. Was he fully healthy? I don't know. Hadn't had a lot of playoff games in his career. I don't even know if that was in LA. Was he there? I don't remember. Anyway, doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say, I think there's more to his game than what we saw. I think you're right. Sometimes you think you're going to get the payday and you think you're going to get that. Then all of a sudden, you've had these last couple months and then people maybe are like, maybe I'm not going to go there at that number. And then we'll see what happens. But I think that we didn't see the real Sean Walker, and I think that things fall into place sometimes and who knows what's going to happen. And there might be a chance that he's back. Who knows?
Well, and you look at both of your points combined, his D partner for most of his stint in Colorado is Jack Johnson, which limits the offensive ability.
Yep.
I think that it was teased and left us wanting, so it's a little unclear to me what the potential upside is there because he clearly likes to get involved off the rush and move the puck. So I'm curious to see because that seemed like maybe the strength of his game. There obviously were some defensive gaffes that were concerning, but it does seem like there is a conversation to be had about evaluating his time in Colorado with Jack Johnson as his D partner in mind, at least paying that some consideration. But I'll be curious to see how the money works out, if it makes sense for a third pair role, because in Colorado, it just seems like that's what he's resigned to be, and that's why the money has to make sense.
So let me paint a picture for you. Let's say the Avs like not Jack Johnson. Let's say the Avs like Sean Walker. Let's say they think there's more there. Let's say they want to bring him back. Do you consider taking a look at moving a Manson or a Girard to allow more opportunity for someone like a Sean Walker?
You have to. I think if you want to bring Sean Walker back, it comes at the expense of Sam Girard. I don't think it's going to come at the expense of Josh Manson because, again, he brings a different dynamic that your defense, it just needs it. Until you go out and find another guy that can do that, it needs it. But where I think Sean Walker is especially just, you just don't need to go there. You have Sam Malinski that should be on your third pairing next year.
Who we're about to talk about. Yeah.
And so that's the next guy that you just look at it and you go, Sam Girard's already there.
Yep.
As your kind of not incredibly offensively gifted small guy that breaks pucks out and attacks up the ice and has some pros and cons in the defensive zone. I just don't know why Sean Walker needs to be revisited.
Because I loved the end of the year that Sam Girard had. He assumed a huge role on the PK, biggest of his career yet, and I thought he really grew defensively. And it would be hard for me then to think of him being the player that gets moved based off what he accomplished when he returned, unless that makes his stock that much higher.
Yeah.
And I could entertain that argument completely. I wanted to pose a question too, like alongside the bottom pair in the Jack Johnson conversation, was there more comfort or equal comfort with a player like Andreas Englund there, a player who lacked a lot of the experience that Jack Johnson brings, but brought kind of the physical edge? And I'm not advocating to bring back Andreas Englund. I just wonder, Are they too attached to Jack Johnson when there are lots of players like Jack Johnson that could satisfy that role?
Yes. Yeah. I think
Johnson has three main things going for him. He's always healthy.
Yep.
He's got the veteraniness that you always want.
That's the big one.
And he's cheap. He's willing to play for $800,000 every year, and for a guy that's going to play every night for you, it's just really good value.
I just don't think
that
it's
face you just made, I
necessary.
agree.
You can go out and find better for the same price. I truly believe that.
Even if you have to spend 1.2.
Well, I don't think you do. That's the whole thing.
But I'm saying if that's the difference between getting a guy that is not going to drag down every single pairing.
Yeah.
So, shit, dude, just he's not overwhelming either, but Caleb Jones, come on. It's not like Caleb Jones was bad as an Av. He didn't have a great postseason.
That's a hard game to get into. That was a hard game for everybody. I think he inherited a horrible situation.
Yeah, holding game 4 against any of the Avs at this point is a hard.
To include Sean Walker, who has to elevate his game in just the worst imaginable situation.
Yeah.
Like, it was bad for everybody.
I'm not. If they want to bring Caleb Jones back as a 7, fine. He's a perfectly acceptable number 7 anywhere in the NHL. I'm good. No big conversation there.
Yeah.
What there is a conversation about is don't bother spending 1.2 or some outrageous number on sunglasses when you can go get yourself some Shady Rays instead. Shady Rays, look, the future's bright with them. You gotta make sure you're looking into the Avs' bright future with your Shady Rays on, else you might go blind. Because it turns out no matter what you do around the edges, the Avs core really good. So go get your Shady Rays today. It's been given 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames, crystal clear optics, and the best part is actually their whole return policy. You can go get Shady Rays. If you don't like them, you break them, or you lose them in the first 30 days, Shady Rays will replace them entirely for free. So you might as well go get yourself a pair just to try them out with a deal like that. Obviously, we all have Shady Rays here on the show. We all love them. I know AJ wears them literally all the time. I wear them when I can. As a person who is not a big fan of sunglasses, I wear Shady Rays. So highly recommend you go get yourself a pair of Shady Rays while you can. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code DNVR for 35% off any pair of polarized sunglasses with Shady Rays. Again, go check them out today. Use that DNVR code at shadyrays.com. And once you got your Rays on, once you're looking cool, make sure you get yourself over to ClutchBet and get deals and the most unique promotions and odds on Colorado's hometown teams. Whether that be the Avs, which, you won't be putting any bets on them anytime soon. The Nuggets, you probably won't be either. But you can still put bets on or against the Rockies, however you feel about that. You can get in on a little bit of Rapids action. There are options out there when it comes to ClutchBet. So make sure you get in on it. Hockey fans can still take advantage of a bunch of other great NHL promos as well, including insurance on all first goal scorer bets and NHL parlays throughout the playoffs. So if you've got a vibe, if you think you know who's going to drop a goal first in one of these playoff games, go get with it. And I would recommend betting on probably Leon Draisaitl if you're going to pick someone. But, pick whoever you want. New ClutchBet players are also eligible for a 100% first bet match up to $250 paid in bonus bets over your first 5 weeks when you use code DNVR250. Download the ClutchBet Sportsbook app today and be sure to keep an eye out for other great promotions and offers on the Rockies, Broncos, Nuggets, and Avs, and all Denver sports. Of course, you must be 21 or older, located in the state of Colorado. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-GAMBLER if you or someone you know needs help. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We kind of hinted at it, and, do you want to replace Jack Johnson with whatever your favorite bottom pairing defenseman is a conversation we can have closer to the deadline, or closer to free agency.
We'll talk about it plenty.
The guy I want to talk about today, and we already mentioned him a little bit, Sam Malinski's got to have a pretty clear path to the Avalanche lineup next year, right?
Yep.
And I know he doesn't necessarily do what Jack Johnson does defensively, but if you're looking to do what Sean Walker does, It seems like that's a pretty easy 1-to-1 for the Avs lineup, right?
Yeah, you get Malinski, who's not going to be as good as Walker, but you get somebody better than Jack Johnson, and I think your third pairing, the floor of your third pairing goes up.
Sure.
And with Sam Malinski, it's an unknown ceiling. You know, you probably don't. You're not expecting any great shakes there. You know, I don't think any of us are sitting here pretending that Sam Malinski is going to be a top 4 guy for the Avalanche next year.
No.
But for me, in my opinion, for whatever that counts, he should be in your top 6. He needs to be one of the guys that you are planning around this offseason. You know,
Okay.
surprises always happen. You know, you never know when you get into training camp if Sean Barons blows you away and you're like,
Yeah.
this guy doesn't even need to bother with it. Then
Great.
yeah, then
Bonus.
maybe you it forces a conversation. But going into it, I think Sam Malinski needs to be firmly inked into. This is a guy that we are going into training
NHL
camp.
roster, at least. Yeah.
Going into training camp with the expectation that he's on our team.
I think it's the only way to extract his value, too. He needs to be getting in NHL games as consistently as possible to get the experience. I think it's the best way for him to continue to adapt to the speed and make better reads defensively. I think that's something that I do see grow in his game in time, and I think that's the only path for him. And so it would be a disservice to everything that they've invested in so far in taking this swing on the college free agent. You know, in order to make it worth their while, they have to have a little bit of opportunity carved out for him. And there's, you know, a degree of accountability that Malinski holds in that too, to seize it. But I think he did everything asked of him last year up through this point in having been a Black Ace and working hard around the team. And so I think if I'm the front office, you have to, in order to get the best out of Malinski, give him that opportunity.
He's not 21.
He is not 21.
It is not a kid. It's not Sean Barons. You've got a couple of years.
So here's what I was going to say. You nailed it right there. I like him. First and foremost, I like him. I wish we would have seen him more this year. You know what I mean? Here's what's going against him. His age. He is what he is. He's not becoming Bobby Orr. Like, the type of player that he's going to be, you see it. Now, what you haven't seen is, you just mentioned it, is reads and stuff like that. It is such a different game from the American League to the NHL to be able to read plays, and now it comes down to the coaching staff. Not you, not me, not Joe Smith, the fan. Like, do they trust him enough to feel that he can get up to speed on those reads? Because the Avalanche is not a place to learn. It's cup or bust, right? I mean, it just is. And as you're going from the goaltending position, as we saw with Eustace this year, and part of Eustace's development this year was that. At first, they were scared with that because, you know, they were like, do we like him, not like him, you know? It's different than the San Jose Sharks, right? You can't just throw him in there. And then you go to the second hardest position, which is defense. Forwards, man, oh my God, the easiest thing. You know what I mean? But D is hard. D is freaking hard. And then you're going there, and then do Prater and Bednar and those guys trust him enough to feel that he's not going to cost them a few games here and there. And then we all say that it's important. It's not important to the regular season, but it freaking is, because you got to get to the dance, right? You got to win games in the regular season to make to the postseason. So, and we all know the margin of error is it's thin. So I think that's what's going against them. Now, do I feel me, from what I saw? Yes. I wish I would have seen him more in Loveland this year. You know what I mean? Just to kind of learn about him a little more. Do I think he can get up to speed in those reads? Yes. Did he look at times, which is very normal, lost at times in reads and reaction? Yes. And that's when you weren't sure if Bednar was going to trust him. And then he had some good games. Then all of a sudden you're like, oh, Bednar's trusting him, you know. But let's face it, if he were really, 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 really trusting him, he would have been here. He would have been maybe instead of Caleb Jones in those games that, you know, because you want to put the best lineup possible. So I think his age, when I say it's not a bad thing, it's just that he is what he is. He's not becoming Cale Makar. He's not. So he's going to, it's a crucial summer for him, and it's a crucial training camp, you know what I mean, of what he will become, especially with the Avalanche in his career. You know what I mean? Is he going to?
It's about earning that opportunity.
That's
for
right.
him
And
now.
I think he showed stuff. Hey, we talked about it in freaking Vegas last year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking about, hey, he was in the toughest spot of anybody to go there because you're supposed to do good. And if you don't do good right away, you're like, oh no, we don't like him. You know what I mean? Where if he does good, it's like, oh, well, I hope so. He's 25 and freaking those kids are 18. And you know what I mean? You can't win. You know what I mean? So I think he did all the steps. And then from preseason games to, you know, to then getting called up, and would have liked to see him in the playoff. You know what I mean? Just kind of see how you react, you know. But I think this is a big summer for him. And I think you'll know early on in the season next year, because it comes down to the freaking coaching staff. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. If a coach don't like you, like, and I'm not saying Bednar don't like, that's not what I'm saying. But you'll know really early on if he's part of their plan or not. Just by the way he's handling the preseason. You'll know right there. Is he a part of this or is he not?
My final pitch for Malinski to make the roster coming out of camp. One, we've listened to Bednar talk about a lot of different prospects. I think the way in which he's spoken about Malinski has been more positive. And I think part of it is the age. Like, I actually do think he views Malinski as a more mature player than maybe some of the prospects coming straight from major junior. I think that works to his advantage. The other thing is there's a lot of uncertainty around other parts of the Avs roster, especially around money and how they're going to make it work. Malinski is cheap money for a third pair option to start the year, where the Avs always start a little bit thin, and then they see where the real dire holes are and move accordingly. And all this conversation about there's so many bottom pair guys, you know, like Andreas Englund, Jack Johnson, throw them in. They can find a guy like that if the Malinski thing doesn't work out. I say for the purpose of trying to prioritize some of the other holes in the roster, go with the affordable option in Malinski and ride with him coming out of camp and see what he does in those early games. Give him the sample round to extended edition.
Yep. And the reality is there isn't really any internal competition for Malinski. Barons is probably the closest thing to competition, and this is a guy with 0 professional hockey games played at any level.
Hey, he has 2.
I'm sorry.
He got into the 2 at the end
amateur
of the
tryout
Eagles.
too.
Yeah.
Was my bad.
He got into those 2 Eagles games.
Nonetheless, a guy who is going to have less trust from the coaches than Malinski will in a Barons. And the other defensive options are guys like Guyev, who is not coming over, and guys that are closer to lifetime AHLers than they are NHL prospects. I don't want to talk bad about any of the guys like Amott or Klerman or anything, but the reality is,
and a Jack Ashawn,
they just haven't come close to making the Avs roster through, in some cases, a number of years for those guys. So as far as internal is concerned, it's Malinski's road to take. Now, on July 1st, the Avs could go sign 4 defensemen, and then we're like, well, this is going to be a little bit tougher.
I'll be really upset if they do that.
if they're all good, I'm good with it. Sorry, Sam, but it's like they're not. They won't be. Is the thing. They won't. They just don't have that room.
But if you look at it, and you are just a outsider, not an Avs fan, not a guy that lives in, or a girl that lives in Denver, or, you know what I'm saying, like a fan, or again, it could be somebody working for a different team. Once you look at that roster, and you look and you see Malinski there, you qualify that as thin, like you were saying right there, because it's the truth. It is thin. He's got 20 career games. Okay, great. That's thin. Now it's for you to make sure you seize the opportunity that's given to you, if it's given to you, right? Because opportunities earned, but it goes both ways, right? You also have to be given the opportunity. And if he's got to make himself, I'll use the same words, thin, he's got to make himself thick. You know what I mean? Where, all of a sudden it's like, he becomes a staple back there.
I like it.
He's just not there yet because there's not enough proof in the pudding, right? You know what I mean? There just isn't. Like Eustace. And then all of a sudden at their trade deadline, because there was no other option, they're like, oh, screw it, let's freaking let him play. And then he did awesome.
And they gave him a 2-year deal.
That's right. Yep. That's proof's in the pudding, right? So you got to see what's going to happen there, and a lot can happen. as we saw, things change in one day. You know what I mean? And then one trade and things change. You know what I mean? But if he's given the opportunity, he's got to make sure he's ready to go and run with it, because time is of the essence. Because I've said because of his age. You know what
25.
I mean? It's not. He's not 21. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And as an organization, you're like, if you feel that he's not, then you're like, he's not, and then you move on.
I think he's a summer baby too. I think he turns 26 this summer.
I believe he does.
It makes it tougher. But also, the world is his oyster.
So I think that pretty much sums up the defense. I think there's clearly at least one roster spot available. Do they rehash Jack Johnson, or do they go get out something better? We'll have to wait and see. But
That's what pro scouting is.
Yep.
It is. And then you go back to Val and, you know, things like that. Like, that's pro scouting. You know, hey, we got to give this guy a chance. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's a guy that is falling out of favors. It's a guy that, oh my God, like went overseas for sake. I mean, like, you know, and then you say, oh, he can replace Jack Johnson. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what that is. And you go to bat for him and you see what happens. There are guys out there. There are. You just need someone to believe in you.
He's talking about Dylan Coughlin.
All right. Well, I do like him. I wasn't thinking about him until you said it.
We can move on to the forward core here.
Oh, boy.
Now, there are a lot of question marks that still remain on things in the forward core. I want to start off with some things that we know for sure. The Avs...
McKinnon's coming back.
Yeah, good job.
Okay,
good start.
You know how
Thanks,
there's
bud.
FMK? I feel like there should be like sign, walk, and I don't know what the third would be, but for roster purposes.
Yeah. That's the Rizzler next time. Let's go.
Sign, walk,
Punt.
sent to the sent to the KHL or something.
Punt. Punt.
Sign, walk,
Punt.
sign, walk,
So
and
rude.
wave.
It is
Sign-
rude. I shouldn't
sign,
talk
walk, and
like
wave,
that.
sign, walk, and punt.
Hey, I've been punted, so trust me, it's fine. I can say it.
There are 6 signed forwards that I am absolutely sure will be in the Avalanche lineup next year.
Probably 7.
Probably 7. We'll get there. Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Arturi Lehkonen, Ross Colton, Miles Wood, Logan O'Connor. Those 6, I'm confident, will be in the lineup. You also have Nikolai Kovalenko signed for 1 more year. You also have Casey Middlestat as an RFA that the Avs are going to bring back.
Yes.
He will be back. Like, Casey Middlestat will be on the team next
Yes.
year.
Yeah. Just not yet contract.
Yeah,
signed.
he just isn't under contract yet.
And it's not going to be a holdout. It's going to be good.
So with Casey, that makes 7 surefire guys. Kovalenko is going to be in the mix somewhere. I don't know if he's in the opening night lineup or whatever.
Kovalenko
but
has an out in his deal. If he's in the AHL, he can go back to the KHL whenever he wants.
Yeah.
So
What do you
he's on the team.
he's either here or he's gone.
Exactly.
And I just didn't see enough. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, and like
Fair.
I
7 minutes of 2 playoff games where he's never played before. Like,
don't know. I'd
you're,
like to tell you
you're
he's
gonna,
awesome, or I'd like to tell you he's bad. I have no idea.
He's going to be somewhere in that mix where he is on that roster. You know, when you guys are roster baiting with lines, who knows? You could put him anywhere you want.
You have a lot of mystery with your top 6 wingers, so let's put that to the side for a second, and let's deal with the Avs' bottom 6 first. Miles Wood and Ross Colton are already here, like I mentioned, but expiring UFAs this season that affect the Avs' bottom 6. Andrew Cogliano, Brandon Duhaime, Yoel Kiviranta, and Yakov Trenin. All 4 expiring this year. Realistically, how many of those guys are coming back? 1? 2? I don't think you can do... I think you're crazy if more than 2 of those guys are coming back, but...
Depends on
So-
what price. I mean,
Of course,
Yeah,
but-
I know. Yeah.
I think Duhaime is probably the easiest midpoint of that, of guy that you can comfortably play on a 4th line, who can do a couple of different things for you, and guy who should be cheap. Like $1 million cheap. He doesn't have the offensive numbers for him to get much more than that.
No.
He's a wing, so he's not going to be a guy that you're like, oh, hey, we're going to throw him into the middle of the ice. Yakov Trenin's going to feast off of that part in free agency. His agent is going to hammer that.
Look at he could play center. He could do
Look,
it.
look what he did. Look what he did. Look what he did. Look what he did. Come on. But Duhaime, I think, is probably the easiest of, like, you could put him on your PK next year to replace Andrew Cogliano. You could put him on your 4th line to replace Andrew Cogliano. You get a faster skater who has a physical element to his game. It's tough to judge him on the postseason because he played 6 minutes a night, maybe. It was tough, and you could easily argue he wasn't very good. Sure, he just didn't play very much, and I don't know. I think that's for me. I think he's the easiest of those guys. Kiviranta would also be pretty easy because
playoffs were good. Yeah.
And if you bring Kiviranta back and you say, okay, this was encouraging as a guy that can be in our lineup. If he's our 13th or 14th guy walking into it, and he's one of our replacement, fine.
Sure.
Because that's truly what he is. And as much as we're like, oh, he was good in the playoffs, he wasn't very good once he came back in the Dallas series.
Yep.
And having Ross Colton, who's making $4 million and had the best season of his career, showed a lot of promise and a lot of growth, stapled next to 25-point Miles Wood and 20-point Yoel Kiviranta is
tough.
It's really, really, really hard to have a third line that's going to consistently, every fourth game produce a point for you, produce a goal for you, when your best player, your third line center is going to need more help than that. You think that Dallas's third line is good because of its center alone? There's guys around it. So they need more help than that. And Kiviranta, Logan O'Connor, I love LOC. I still am not fully convinced he's the third liner.
The conversation
Miles Wood really needs to be a fourth liner.
The conversation you're getting into is how good is Nikolai Kovalenko, but
you definitely need to find that out.
Yeah.
And so there's uncertainty there, but if you bring Kiviranta back and Duhaime back again, that can't cost more than $2 million.
For sure.
That cannot cost more than $2 million. $2 million is probably even high for those two combined.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm like, look, those two guys, is it better to bring those two guys back? It's, let's just say 1.8 combined, or Yakov Trenin for 1.8 alone? Because for my money, I like a lot of what Yakov Trenin does. Yeah. We think he's a good NHL player, but I also think he's been wildly overrated by Avalanche fans. This is a guy with very little offensive production in his career.
And you kind of saw that in the playoffs.
Like, he has his moments. He's not without merit, but first of all, he's not a center. He wasn't a center when he got here. He didn't exactly excel as a center when he was here. He needs to be a wing.
Won a lot of PK faceoffs.
Yeah, he needs to be a wing. And Cogliano, they can't bring him back. They just can't do it.
I don't think Cogliano has to be done. I just don't think it's in Colorado that he continues his career. But I do think Cogliano can continue in the NHL.
He can go find a retirement home team that plays at a lot slower pace than the Avs do. But he just doesn't have the legs to play Avalanche.
Does Cogs want to hang around as like a development coach or something?
I was thinking about, can he teach face-offs?
Like, can he hang out and be part of the coaching staff or something? Like, I would love to keep him in the organization. He can't be on the ice anymore.
Yeah, he rules. Yeah. I still love him so much. And if he wants to keep going, I fully support it. I just don't see the fit in Colorado.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be back. That's just what I think. Now, as far as what you were saying, AJ, I think Duhaime and I think Kiviranta, not my favorite, but was good in the playoffs. I got to tip my hat to him. I think they come back under $2 million. I agree with you. I do think they bring him back, both of them. I think Trenin's going to price himself out. Listen, I'm working in the NHL today. I pound the fist on the table to go get him because I think he's going to get the money, and the Avs, it's going to be too much for them.
And Nashville moved him at the deadline for a reason.
Yeah,
they could have easily kept him for their own playoff run.
That's it.
He's making 1.7.
He's going to get paid. I'm just telling you right now, he's getting paid.
They did not
when I say
move
paid
him.
is for what he is. He's probably getting overpaid.
If that number starts with a 2, you just can't do it.
It's very much feeling like it's going to be the Nico Sturm deal after the Cup run, where Nico Sturm got $2 million, and you were like,
have fun with that. Yeah,
enjoy.
I was telling you he's going to get paid, and that's just my thoughts. Do I like him? I really like him. Do I wish they would keep him? I don't think they can.
I'll tell you what you can keep. Your Inner Circle rewards with Circle K.
Yes.
Go get to part of the Inner Circle rewards with that Circle K gang out there. You can get amazing game day snacks for a whole lot cheaper than an NHL contract, I'll tell you that much. You can also get amazing deals like 25 cents off a gallon on your first 5 fill-ups, 69-cent Polar Pops, and a bunch of other deals, including a buy 5 of just about anything, get a 6th free with Inner Circle rewards. Use that QR code on screen. Become an Inner Circle Circle K member today. You can even have the opportunity to win some free stuff from Circle K and all of their incredible snacks. Off-day snacks, travel day snacks. Since we're the next big thing we're doing, we'll be traveling to Vegas. What's your travel day snack?
Jerky. Yeah, jerky. We'll go with jerky.
Jerky's a good one.
Yeah.
I need chewing gum because my ears do weird things on the
popping,
plane
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So tons of gum.
Gum?
Definitely.
I don't know if that counts as a snack,
I
but
know,
you can definitely
I know.
get it at Circle
I
K,
always
so we're
love
good.
any kinds of the sour gummies too. I know when we had the sour worms.
We went in
here,
on those worms,
those
for real.
They didn't
Yeah.
last long around here.
An apple?
I'm not letting Eric choose an apple.
In case my wife's listening.
I was just going to say, this is a Jill answer.
Maybe an apple.
and then we'll share.
No, me, it would be caramello for sure.
There you go. Caramello.
The chewing gum for an airplane is a pro move.
It is.
That's a thing you have to learn quickly because
The popping ears are a thing.
when you're
for
on
real.
a plane multiple times
Yeah.
in a short period of time,
My ears aren't ready. I don't know if you've seen. I have very small ears. They're basically child size. That's why I don't listen.
Can you bet on with a Circle K bag of chips and with your Shady Rays, and then can you place a bet on the Yard Goats? No.
yeah, sure.
You probably could. Yeah.
Did you? I'm getting them all in.
Look,
Eric's trying to pay all the bills at once.
once you've got your snacks, once you've landed your plane and you're relaxing, chilling even, some might say, make sure you get a Coors Light.
With a Coors Light, I forgot.
You don't even have to get up. You can get Coors Light delivered right to wherever you are with CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Instacart will hook you up and send a Coors Light to you, whether it be your front door if you're at home, or maybe you're staying at a hotel somewhere. It doesn't matter. You pop in the address, Coors Light, shipping your way. So make sure you get your Coors Light when you're ready to chill, whatever the event might be. Maybe you're going to a Rockies game. Coors Field, great place to chill. Not going to lie to you. It's an awesome place to do it. Maybe you're heading to your parents for Memorial Day. I'm definitely not doing that.
I
no.
will be doing that.
Coors Light. Have a beer and some brats to celebrate the coming of, I guess it's not really summer yet, but it's close enough. Count it.
It's like an unofficial kickoff to summer.
Summer weather. How about that?
Summer adjacent.
Yeah, there you go. So you're good to go with that. Make sure you got a Coors Light in your hand. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. You can get it delivered right to your front door with the CoorsLight.com/DNVR and Instacart. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Now, getting back into the Avalanche conversation of the depth, and we don't have a whole lot more to say here on the depth before we get to the big conversation, but there are a couple of guys that you could look at to get games in the Avalanche system right now, including Andre Pavel, who played games for the Avs this year. You have guys like Jean-Luc Foudy down the roster. You have guys like Oscar Olausson, who you're still waiting to see if you can get anything out of.
He's 21.
Yep.
Doesn't it feel like he's been here for 10 years?
It does.
I was going through when I wrote my piece for yesterday. I was going through it and I was like, 21? I also didn't realize his points per game this year in the AHL was much better.
Yep.
He had an identical 11 goals and 9 assists, but the games played was like
It's way down.
it was like 20 or 30 fewer games.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, like we're all still kind of lukewarm on him.
Yep.
But he had a really good preseason last year.
He's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, like he's 21.
I'd prefer to see him on a fourth line wing in preseason for the Avs than Foudy
Sure.
who I think just isn't equipped for the fourth line role. I still
Yeah.
like Foudy and I'm intrigued by him. I just don't know what he is in the Avs
Has always
lineup.
kind of been his roadblock for sure.
This is both guys. They're not checking players.
And that's
And
where an Andre Pavel comes in.
Well,
right?
and that's where it's like if Nikolai Kovalenko is a third line guy, Ross Colton is a third line guy. Where do you put Jean-Luc Foudy?
yeah.
Where do you put Oscar Olausson to put them in a position to succeed and not just have them be a fish out of water? Can an Oscar Olausson turn himself into an Eli Tolvanen? Because that should be the guy that Oscar Olausson's looking at going, same skill set.
This is how I get to the NHL.
Same
yeah.
skill set, learned how to be a bottom six guy like that. Daniel Sprong, even.
Yep.
Guys that have, that with offensive skill sets, that have learned how to be good bottom six players because they understand when they're
give you
out there.
30 points a year, but also are not a liability. Yeah.
And when they're out there, they understand, okay, I'm only going to play 12 minutes, but those 12 minutes are going to be balls out.
You got to bring something.
Yeah.
You got to bring a specialty, or what are you? You know what I mean? And this is where you're going to spend 10 years in the American League if you don't bring something specific that you do well. And you better be ready to answer too. So when they ask you, what is it that you do? Like, oh, I touch a little bit of everything on the. Well, yeah, you're not playing.
Shane Bowers.
You're just not going to play.
That's what happened to Shane Bowers.
You're not going to play. And if you think you will because, I can. No, you can't. It's the best players in the world. It's a worldwide sport. There's guys from everywhere. People bring something. So you got to bring something. You got to fit the puzzle. That's what you said, Pavel. I don't mind that guy. I don't mind it. He had a no training camp, so to speak, right? And put in all the effort last summer here. And again, we saw him a couple games, and for what he was asked to do, I didn't mind it. But then you look at his stats in Loveland, and you're like, exactly. But that doesn't matter because this is a guy might score 5 goals, 10 assists in the minors, might do that in the NHL. And there's guys that score 30 in the American League. They can't score 1 in the NHL because they're not going to fit the puzzle. So you got to bring something specific. And this is what I tell young guys all the time is watch guys in the NHL, and there's a reason why they're in the NHL, because a lot of them figured out that they know how to do the simple things of the game to perfection. And once you do that, that's when you get the trust of coaches. And so it's the simplicity of the game, but to do it with consistency and to do it perfectly. Nobody's asking you to do a Michigan. Nobody's, just do the simple things of the game. Your stick, good stick, lucky. I mean, there's a reason why Artturi Lehkonen plays, and he would play on every team. He's figured out to do all the simple things to perfection. You want to play in the NHL, you're a guy in the minors, that's what you got to do. You got to figure it out.
2 more conversations here. One, a guy that does know how to do that's coming back next season is Chris Wagner.
That's why he's still playing.
I would be very surprised if he doesn't at least get some games with the Avs next year.
Absolutely.
And then 2, the guy that our Toyota chat is just brought up a second ago. Is Cal Ritchie on the depth chart for real for the Avs next season, or is this a guy that you're expecting to go back to juniors?
Well, you talked to Director of Player Development Brian Wilsey.
Yep, and we came to an agreement that the rules are dumb and he should play in the AHL next year.
But because you asked him this question, and
look, I think he ends up back in juniors. I really do. I think it's unfortunate that that's the case, but the Avs don't seem like they're in a hurry to rush this guy to the NHL. I think they learned some lessons from the route that they went with Tyson Jost, and they want to get guys the development that they need. Now, unfortunately, he's going to tear up the junior circuit next year. He's just going to dominate that league, and I don't know how much he can get from that.
And Cal Ritchie's biggest problem, other than not being allowed to play in the AHL, is that, and it's not something, there's nothing he can do to overcome it. He's not strong enough. He's not big enough. No amount of 3 months of summer training is going to get him prepared for an 82-game season in the NHL.
And keep in mind, and this is something that Wilsey brought up, this is a guy who lost his entire summer as an 18-year-old kid. A time that normally, if someone's going to make that quick jump to the NHL, would be critical for muscle building and trying to get your body ready. And he was just injured. Just the reality of his situation is he didn't have that time to do that. So
he's kind of a year behind in the development because of that.
Yep.
The reality is with Cal Ritchie, he'll get training camp this year.
Yep.
He didn't last year. He'll probably go to the rookie face-off in Los Angeles. He didn't get that last year.
And
he'll have opportunities to make an impression.
Yeah, if he blows people away.
Look, Eric was part of the Avalanche when Ryan O'Reilly made the team as an 18-year-old. And he could tell you when Ryan O'Reilly made the team, there just wasn't a better option. And if Cal Ritchie comes into preseason in the training camp and he just says, I'm your fourth-line center now, then he's your fourth-line center now.
Great. Everybody wins.
Like, yeah. I'm not going to sit here and close the door and say that he absolutely can't do it. I'm saying the odds are stacked pretty heavily against him, and the fact that he can't go to the AHL really hurts him.
Yep.
It really hurts him.
Here's what I'm going to add about him, because I really don't know him. Like, I really don't know him as a player. I mean, as a player. Of course I don't know him, but don't know him as a player. I've seen bits and pieces there, kind of know what he is. Coming to the NHL this fall, right? Training camp, rookie camp, training camp. Hasn't done that before. Was around, was a spectator. Maybe got things here and there, listening, watching. Because it is overwhelming, you know. So maybe that was good for him last year. Not to play, just to be there, just to learn and meet some guys and get your feet wet, understand how things work. So you come this year, because of the fact that Will's told you, like, you can't go play in the American League, which is stupid, you know. Okay, let's see what he's got. And like you said right there, we lived there with Ryan O'Reilly back then, but Ryan played center. There's not many. There's freaking two guys, I think, outside of the first round in the last 15, 20 years. There's Bergeron and him that actually made the team at 18 years old. So, Again, this guy's a little different. He's 19, but here's what I would do with him. The center position is tough. Remember I said defense is tough. Center's a little tough. Wingers, again, you can be freaking a moron and go play wing, okay? It's fine. Why not put him on the wing in training camp, see what he's got? See what he's got, because maybe we'll see how the roster shapes up. We'll see where the Avs are at, like scoring-wise. Let him play. He's missed, like, the training camp the year before. Let him play. Throw him in there. Put him at center. Put him on the wing. You got 9 games to figure it out anyway if you don't want to burn a year on him. Like, you don't have to rush, like...
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you feel that you're going to send him down to where he's just going to dominate, keep him as long as you want. Keep him as long as you can. And maybe, like Rudo said, he's not ready, or, you know, because he's not physically ready because of the summer he missed 2 years ago. But you'll never know until you see it. But go with an open mind with this guy. And what if he clicks and he connects with freaking guys, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, Ryan O'Reilly, you know, like, whoa, hold on a second.
I would say this. The Avs have never really done this, but you see a lot of teams around the NHL with kids like this. They'll keep him on the roster for the first 2 months. They'll give him 9 games if they feel like burning more. Maybe it's more like 15, 20. You'll send him to World Juniors, which Ritchie will absolutely be going to next season. He was likely to go this year, just didn't get healthy in time. And then you make a decision from there. You can send him back to his junior team after that if you feel like there's no room on the roster, or you can keep him.
I got no problem with that.
Yeah, my only fear, you want him playing. You don't want him.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't want him sitting around.
Has to play.
And that's where if you're going to give him 9 games, give him the first 9 and go from there. It's fair to wonder how much putting him in a depth role, having him on your fourth line to start, might help or hurt him. There's no straight line here. There's no right answer. It's really, really hard to say what's the right path because different guys respond differently.
Yep.
You look at, I think the fear is what has happened with Cole Sillinger in Columbus. They put him on the fourth line, and now he's become a fourth liner.
Yeah.
And his game has really struggled to come along. And that was a guy that scored an awful lot of goals before he got to the NHL. And because of the role that he was put in, spent so much time developing the defensive side of his game that the offensive side of the game has now lagged way behind.
Yep.
So that's the concern with Cal Ritchie.
And maybe he can't
Agreed.
play. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's not ready.
For sure.
That's what
We
I'm saying.
don't know
Maybe
yet.
he's not ready.
It's
After 3
way
preseason
premature
games,
to
you're
just
like,
assume
oh,
he can
God.
be in that job, though.
No, that's what I'm saying.
It's
you don't
way
know.
premature.
I just said if he's showing prowess, then great. If he's not, then
I wanted to give Megan a
not ready.
chance if she has anything to add on Ritchie before we move on to our next topic.
No, I just need to see a little bit more.
Spot on.
We've seen so many players excel in junior, and it's just it can help be a predictor of what's next for them, but it's hard by itself.
There are a lot of dudes who can score 100 in juniors that can't play in the NHL.
Absolutely.
And if you're bad in junior, you're probably not going to be very good in the NHL either.
Yep.
So the fact that he's trending upward is great, but
He's doing what he can in the situation he's in, but you just
Exactly.
don't know the next level until it's there.
yep.
The top six, I hyped this conversation up. There's really not a lot to talk about here.
No.
The Landeskog situation is what it is. Maybe we'll learn more about it tomorrow. I kind of doubt it.
I don't
but
think so. Like
maybe.
Yeah.
I want to caution everyone. I do not think we're getting much more clarity on the top 6 tomorrow.
So Landy is what it is. I'm sure the Avs internally probably have a better idea than we do, but we still don't know for sure.
Yeah.
The
we're
Nichushkin
gonna get
thing-
the biggest PR answer of all time
Yeah,
about
right.
Val Nichushkin tomorrow.
I'm not expecting an answer, but I think everyone on this podcast, do we comfortably believe that Nichushkin has probably played his last game for Colorado?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you say comfortably believe?
I did say that, but I believe it. I'll put
I
it to you that
believe.
way. So that's an open spot. Now, what happens with that contract ultimately, we're not sure yet. So it's really hard to say. If the Avs do end up getting out of that contract via whatever means it ends up being, it feels like the most straightforward move is just give that money to Jonathan Drouin.
Yes.
Okay. So pretty straightforward, to be honest.
Or us. I mean, you guess.
Or us, yeah, sure.
I will take it, but I'll give it to Druin under the table to let him stay. I'll take
Skim a mill off the
Yeah,
top.
exactly. He can have some of it.
Salary cap circumvention.
So that seems a pretty straightforward move, and the Landy thing is what it is. But if you end up with knowing a top 6 of McKinnon, Rantanen, Lehkonen, Drouin, and Middlestat, and then you either have $7 million or you have Gabe Landeskog.
Yeah. And right now, you should plan for Landeskog to be back at the start of next season. At the moment, from a salary cap perspective, that's what you're planning on.
Sure.
With Nichushkin, there will be lawyers.
Yeah, a much more complicated process.
Yeah, there will be lawyers.
Are we happy with that top 6? Let's say Landeskog is back. Are we happy with McKinnon, Rantanen, Lehkonen, Landeskog, Middlestat, Drouin, in whatever combination you want them to be?
Yeah.
Up to the top 10 players in the league. I mean, right there. That's good.
Well, I think there's a conversation about like what Landy comes back as
For sure.
Yeah.
at the start.
Definitely, maybe not a top 6 guy.
Maybe more middle 6. And I still don't, I'm not betting against Landy being able to resume a top 6 role. It just could be a little flexible in
For
the
sure.
beginning. And I'm excited, like to the point of wanting to cartwheel through a wall if Landeskog plays another game of hockey. So just
You'd have to
make that
cartwheel
clear.
so hard to
I
get through a
will
wall.
get a running start. Maybe I'll do several beginner cartwheels just to get enough momentum.
As long as you go feet first, you might be all right.
Yeah, it's a good tip.
Don't go head first. The Avs are positioned well, I would say, with some obvious caveats of
Yeah.
what happens with Landeskog, what happens with Nichushkin's contract.
If they have 13 mil in dead money that just doesn't get
Obviously
used at
not
all,
good.
they're in trouble.
I mean, if Landeskog is out and you don't use his money, that's on the team. Like, they mess something up.
Yeah.
The Nichushkin situation, again, a bit more complicated. But, look, are there some holes that the Avs need to fill this offseason? Yes. Do they need to do major surgery? If
No.
things break their way with Landeskog, definitely not.
No.
So,
It's still a good team. Still
Yep.
a playoff team. As of right now, it's still the bones of a playoff team. You just got to fill in the rest.
yep.
3 top 10 players in the league.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well. Obviously, as we get closer to free agency and all of that stuff, we'll probably dive more into actual targets and things that might make sense for Colorado, but we're still a ways away from that.
Like a week.
I'd say 2 probably, because we have to do draft stuff also, and I'm still making a ton of content that's unpacking the Avs season. P.S.
Yeah.
Diehards just dropped a thing on the Avs power play this morning. Go check out that video if you want to learn why I actually think the Avs power play is really, really good, except for when they're being lazy about giving up shorthanded goals.
Bad habits. Get
Yeah.
them. It's not bad scheme.
Yep, exactly. So go check that out. It's off-season time. We're going to have a bunch of random stuff coming at you all the time. We're going to have another show tomorrow. As mentioned, depending on what comes out of that presser, it might be a complete nothing burger. It might be something really interesting. So we'll break all that down for you, whatever it ends up being. Any final thoughts on today? Anyone I missed on the depth chart that you guys wanted to touch on?
We have all summer to do it, so it's fine.
All right. We'll leave it at that. We appreciate y'all, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.